everyone. My name is Dr. Daphne Buchanan. I am here today to start my advocacy podcast that will be focused on education. Um, I have a passion to teach. I have a passion to learn. I have a passion to support. Um, I love my profession. I love to be able to just step up and support in any way I can. I love being, I don't really want to say a mentor, but I love being a buddy to another teacher. I don't ever want to seem like I am more than another teacher. I want to be a support to them. And sometimes being a buddy is 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 better than being a mentor. It's okay if that teacher looks to me as being a mentor, but a mentor, that title can sometimes be daunting to someone because they feel like they have to measure up to a certain expectation. And that's not a bad thing. Being a mentor is not a bad thing, but I know that it puts certain pressure on new teachers. I don't mind being a mentor, but I would rather be a buddy. I would rather be a buddy because that takes the pressure off. And I don't want a teacher to ever feel like that she has to jump through hoops for me because she doesn't. I need a teacher to be who she is with me because that allows me to support her better. Um, I don't know how any other way to say that because we're in it together. I just want teachers to know that they are not in it alone, not in any capacity. So I really want to advocate for all teachers, but I want to specialize for advocating for new teachers who are walking in the door because sometimes they get the hardest part of the job because they really don't know how to come into a new environment and sometimes don't know how to operate it because they face many challenges. And I will get into that later because that is going to be the premise of the show today. I also want to advocate for children. All children do not learn the same. All children do not behave the same. All children do not have the same home life. So there's many things that we have to adjust to as teachers. And sometimes we're not prepared for it. And that means new teachers, seasoned teachers, all nerves can be tapped. All nerves can be tapped. I feel like my nerves get tapped sometimes. I tell you, yes, honey, yes, 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 my nerves can be tapped. And in my nerves being tapped, I, I have to tell new teachers sometimes, they be like, I can't handle this. And I say, honey, I can't handle it either. I had the same thing happen to me today that you had happen to you. And it's just like they feel like they're in a place by themselves and other teachers aren't dealing with the same thing. And I have to say, honey, yes, I am. I want to throw some people through a wall. Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. You're not by yourself. You're not by yourself. So we have to do a better job of letting new teachers know that you're not by yourself. And then we also have to provide them with strategies that um, work with students and know we can't throw them through a wall. We might need to let them feel like we'll throw them through a wall, but we, we have to provide them with strategies that may work. And then I also want to advocate for parents because sometimes parents don't know and don't trust the school environment. So it's very important that we establish relationships with each other as teachers, with our parents, and with our students, because those positive relationships will make it so much easier for your school year, getting in there and doing the work. But most of all, teachers have to be able to trust themselves to do the right thing. And it's not the easiest thing to do. And so being that buddy, being that place, being readily available anytime. I make myself available because I feel like it's important that at a moment's notice, your person, your buddy may need you. It might be a pop up at 8 o'clock at night, and you're like, "Oh, I forgot to ask somebody this." I want my person to know you call me when you need to. I have no cutoff time for my buddy. To be honest, I have no cutoff time for my parents. I don't have a cutoff time for my students. If I'm awake, I'll respond. Um, Everybody's not like that. Some people want to say, "Hey, I don't work after this time," and I'm not. Don't. This is my. I'm off work at this time. Everybody's not the same. But again, you just have to do what it is that you feel like you have to do. So the premise of my podcast, guys, is to focus on policy, what the policies miss, because sometimes the policy is not made to support everyone. And that means students, teachers, and parents. Some policies are not made to fit everyone, and we have to adapt to how we can make those policies fit ourselves. And then what experiences teachers have, different experiences make teachers feel different ways, and we have to learn how to adapt, learn from others' experiences if we haven't had the experiences ourselves. And then once we do go through the steps of learning, we have to be able to identify with, okay, this is how I learn best, or this is how my students learn best, or this is what I need to communicate to my parents of how their student learns best. Because we have to be able to work as a team, the parent, the student, me as the teacher. We have to learn these things. And everybody doesn't come in the building knowing how to do that. And then there are going to be personality conflicts. There might be personality conflicts among teachers. There may be conflicts with a teacher and a student. There may be conflicts with a teacher and a parent. Whatever they may be, there has to be a way to navigate it where you can get through the year, because unfortunately, a man's probably not going to move the child, which means the parent is not going to move, which means there has to be a happy medium, and you have to be able to navigate those waters. Because 180 to 85 days of having to deal with the parent and then the student and then your teammate, you have to be able to navigate those waters, and you have to be able to fix relationships. And so being able to have someone to come to, someone to be able to advise you, somebody to be able to talk to give you ideas on how to navigate those things is sometimes so much easier than having to figure out how to wade through those waters by yourself. And I want to be a person that can give someone some advice. Um, I want to be able to give personal and powerful and reflective answers. I want to be able to give you policy responses. I want to be able to give you experiences, whether it be academic, whether it be instructional, whether it be um, I don't know. It's just so many things. People don't realize there's so many things in this teaching field that we have to deal with besides providing instruction for students, besides managing their behaviors. We have to have so many balls in the air at the same time, but we still have to manage our personal lives. We still have to take care of our families, and we still have to come in and take care of our jobs, because unfortunately to some people it's just a job. For me, it's a passion. For me, it's something that I love doing. um, and I'm going to talk a little bit about fighting for my passion. That's something I had to fight for this last 2 years, and so I'm going to talk about that a little bit as well in my advocacy because I really wanted to be present. So, of course, like I said, my name is Dr. Daphne Buchanan. I have been teaching. This will be my 24th year the moment I walk into a classroom this year. Um, I have taught first, second, third, fifth grade. I also adjunct at a college teaching English. I have done college. This will be my ninth year. I love both settings. I love both settings because, like I said, teaching is a passion for me. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel wonderful. It makes me feel great when the light comes on in somebody's eyes, and when I have elementary school students like, yeah, I got it. And when I have a college students like Dr. Buchanan, I completely understand what you're telling me. And when I can release a college student and they have it, and I don't have to like do the heavy lifting anymore, and they have picked it up and all they do is turn in assignments after that. When I tell you that is the best feeling in the world, and I realize that they got it from me, it is the best feeling in the world to know that I have supported someone enough that they have mastered a task and were able to be released. I love what I do. I love what I do. And in loving what I do, I love to support others in doing the same as what I do. I am certified elementary school, K-6, middle school, 6 through 9, in English language arts. I am also educational specialist in curriculum instruction and professional development, and I am an educational doctor in teacher leadership. When I say the best years of my life was teaching and learning, teaching and being able to go through my coursework at the same time because I was learning about curriculum. I was learning about during doing studies and researching about children in kindergarten and how they learn best and whether they were ready for kindergarten when they stayed home and when they went to pre-K and when they went to Head Start, because that is what my doctoral study was based upon. And it was amazing to me to do that study. And I thrived with it. And I had the benefit of being able to do it in my school. Um, I loved it. I loved it. And I wanted to be able to just focus on that. And I want to be able to share, some of my experiences with you all because I think that a lot of people um, hit roadblocks in their teaching career and they don't really learn from them. And when I say learn from them, I had some experiences that I always looked upon as roadblocks, that I always looked upon as someone trying to get in my way. And I had to go back and be reflective. A couple years ago, I had a car accident and it took me out of my passion. It took me out of my passion for about a year. Um, my leg was broken, my kneecap was broken, and so, I had to let it heal before I could have a knee replacement. And so, people who have a passion and want to get back to it, I was calling my principal. I was like, look, they said I can come back in a wheelchair. And the principal I had at the time, he was like, He would not let me come back. He said, you need to heal. You need to come back. But what I want to talk about is the principles that I've had and give you some insight into how administrators can affect your point of view at the time and when you reflect on it. My first administrator was wonderful. My first administrator, I came into teaching later in life. I graduated at the age of 27. I did not start college right out of school. Um, I was one of those late people who went back to school. I went back to school at 25. I had 4 children. So some of the people that I teach in the community college, I know their I know their road to travel. So I support them 100%. And I always share that I have been in their shoes. They can do it. I support them. So when you have been where others are going, you can always give them that boost and you can always tell them, look, don't give up, don't quit, do not withdraw unless you talk to me first. That is one of the things I always tell my students at the college. Please don't withdraw and don't quit before you talk to me. I'm telling you, I've been where you are. I know the hard part of it all. So please talk to me before you withdraw. So that is one of the things I want to preface my experience with. But as I walked into my first school building, my first principal was wonderful, but she was also having health issues when I went in. But I am the type of person that takes responsibility. I am gung ho. And I want to tell you, I had the bomb. You hear me? I had the bomb mentor. She assigned me to one of the best mentors in the world. And my mentor was involved. My mentor and I were of like minds in that sense. So my mentor helped out during the summer. So I showed up. I followed in her footsteps. So the things that she showed me to do during the summer, because I'm not a person who likes to sit around. So I showed up. I helped out with what she helped out with. She showed me the ropes. Um, but I also taught a year in my student teaching. So they allowed me to teach a 6th grade science social studies class during my student teaching because they felt like she got it. She knows what she's doing. So I had taught a year during my student teaching. So when I came into my classroom, I was already familiar with setting up a class, setting up a classroom management. But the class that I had was set up for a man and it was a rough class. So I had some rough beginnings because the school I left was very different from the school I came into. But my principal was wonderful. And in her being wonderful, she allowed me to be a leader in the school my first year, which is really unusual because new teachers are not supposed to take on any other responsibility. They're just supposed to be learning the ropes and they're supposed to be teaching. But she allowed me to take on leadership roles, and I did. I took on leadership roles. I taught, and like I said, I followed my mentor. If my mentor came early, I came early. If my mentor stayed late, I stayed late. you know, and so I learned from the best. I will tell anybody today, my mentor was awesome. I learned from the best, and it is what it is. I can't give her a much any more credit than I can. Your mentor is important. Your mentor is important because that is your first teacher in your profession. Your mentor is your first teacher. But I can say you can get mentors who are not the best. And if that is who you learn from, that is how you learn your job. And sometimes people don't receive the best mentors. Um, because teachers do come in at 8 o'clock and leave at 3 o'clock, and they don't do anything extra. And they don't do the extra stuff. And sometimes new teachers are taught that, and that's what they want to do. And it's okay if you don't want to do anything extra. I mean, that's okay if that is your choice. But I feel like of the two experiences, I feel like I learned the most from that. So this principal, my first principal, supported me unconditionally. She gave me things to do. She would put me in positions to support other people. Um, she just did. And then my second principal kind of reinforced that. She let me also do leadership roles. Um, but she was a little different. She was the type of principal that did not make waves and did not want her staff to make waves. And she was a little harder on me in the sense that because I was the type of person, um, I wouldn't start none, but it wouldn't be none. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't start it, but I'll finish it. Um, and so I'll just be frank because I feel like that's what I plan to be. If I had someone to give me some smoke, oh, you gonna get some smoke back. But the person who would give the smoke would then go to the principal and say they felt attacked. So then I would get called into the office and she would say to me, well, this person said they felt attacked. And I would have to tell her, well, people just not going to talk to me any way they want to. And if they don't want to be talked to in that way, then don't talk to me in that way. So we had lots of discussions about, don't give it if you don't want to get it. We had a lot of discussions. And so what she was trying to make me understand, and I was young, still young, coming in at 27, that's still young because you're not going to let anybody run over you. But what that principal wanted me to learn was you can't always respond the way you want to respond. Sometimes you got to listen to what they got to say and you got to keep it moving because unfortunately, those people are the ones sometimes that call, or the people who look like them are the ones can make and break your career. And so you can either figure out a way to respond to them in a way that doesn't make them feel attacked, or don't respond to them at all. So you got to learn how to play the game in order to get ahead. So it took me a little while to understand what she was saying, but finally I got it. So another thing about me is I would tell my students, you're not going to bother anyone, and I'm not going to let anyone bother you. Now, I would tear some kids up about bothering my kids, but I also would tear my kids up about bothering anyone because that's just how it is. And in my class, we are a family, and that's how we operated. So my kids would always get along with each other unless I got some kids who were not supposed to be together and they would feed off of each other. So that's where my problems would lie because I don't have any tolerance for disrespect. I don't have any tolerance for disrespect for each other nor disrespect for me, especially for me. Because I had to tell some kids we can take it outside. That's we can take this outside, bro. Cause it would end up being that way. So sometimes she had to take me in the office and she would have to say, now Buchanan, you can't be telling kids we'll take it outside. Yes, I can. And I called his mom and I told her, look, this is what happened, and I had to tell him we'll take it outside. And his mother said, you know what, Dr. D? He does the same thing at home, and you do whatever it is you need to do to get him in hand. And so I told, once she understood it, I talked to his mother, and I had to explain to my principal. I said, look, that's the only language he understands. He doesn't stop until I say things like that to him. And the reason it takes me saying things like that to him is because that's what his mother says to him. So I have to adapt my tone and my voice to what he understands. And the only thing that makes him stop, because what makes him stop was I had to break him down. He had to cry every day. And so when your principal walks by seeing a kid crying, she's like, "You can't make him cry." Yeah, oh, yeah, I can. So making my principal understand there's just certain things I can't allow because I'm in the room with the student every day. I'm the one who has to deal with him every day. So if he got to cry every day, he just got to cry every day. But it's called relationships. And guess what? That student respected me, loves me, still talks to me today, and remembers that I had 10 toes down. This teacher was 10 toes down. But those are the things, and what sometimes principals don't understand as the people being in the trenches, being with the kids all day. Kids love structure. They will meet your boundaries, but they have to be allowed to see what the boundaries are. So my next principal was a principal who came in, and I feel like she listened to things that people said about me. Because remember, I said my previous two principals allowed me to be in leadership, they allowed me to lead. So, in leading, there were people in the building who felt like I did what I wanted to do. They just let her do what she wanted to do. She ran the school because these were the things that were told to the new principal. And I guess the new principal was like, "Oh, she's not going to run my school." You know, that's how it is. When you listen to other people. So she came in and she sort of like did not allow me to do the things that I was doing before, except for um, organize our fall festival, which was very successful every year. So I was able to do that one leadership role um, because it was, I guess, because it was successful, every year. But at the time, I always thought that she was trying to clip my wings. I always thought she was trying to clip my wings. But as she got to know me and I got to know her, I realized that she had listened to other people about me. And I think that once she got to know me, she just realized that I was a hard worker and I did what I needed to do. But I also realized that she saw that I couldn't even do what I needed to do in the classroom because I was so busy doing all these leadership things that was given to me. So she gave me a present. I didn't see it as a present at the time because my passion was to teach, but I had got hooked into doing all these other things that were really making me tired. If I'm honest, right? Because I can be honest about it right now, but I had got so used to doing them, but they were making me so tired. She put me back where I wanted to be in the classroom, teaching my students, and that's where I wanted to be. So she got me back where I wanted to be. So she wasn't really clipping my wings. She was putting me back where I was supposed to be because I shouldn't have been pulled out of my classroom the way I was to be doing some of the things that I was doing because my focus had been pulled away from my students and pulled into leading a lot of things. Um, and then I realized later that it wasn't that she was taking my leadership roles from me, but more or less she was honing them to less. Um, because she would speak to me honestly. She would be like, Dr. B, these people watch you to see how you're going to respond to things before they respond to things. And then I'm a fixer. So I really hated for our staff to not be on one accord and not to be in a place of calm. I hated for us not to ever be okay. And then I know that a lot of people didn't like her. And I didn't really listen to, what they were saying about why they didn't like her because I didn't dislike her. I When she talked to me and because of my training, I understood everything she was saying. And then, I had people talking to me about how she was getting rid of people and how she was running people off and doing all these things. And I was just like, well, I don't see that. And then I turn around and I'm the oldest person there with seniority. I got 19 years in, and I'm the oldest person there. So then I'm like, oh my God, they were right. And I don't know if it was something that was intentional. I don't I don't know. Um, but it seems that that's how the other staff members felt. So, you know, and then, the assistant principal, she kept coming at me. And I done told y'all this one right here. Don't talk to me in a way that you don't want to be talked back to in that way. And that's how I feel. You give me respect, I'm gonna give you respect. But don't come for me and I won't come for you. Me and the assistant principal will sometimes be cool. But then she would come at me in such a way that wasn't cool. And what I was not gonna allow was somebody to disrespect me. And then we get to my final principal, who used to be an assistant principal in our school. And I thought he would be great as a principal because he knew the demographic. He'd been there as an assistant principal, but he was not the strongest principal. He was better as an assistant principal. But his philosophy was you get strong people behind you. And so I sat in on this interview committee and I loved the assistant principal that we hired. But that I think that the problem for her was that I would go to the principal and ask for things and or ask for whatever, whether it be academic, whether it be to let him know that I needed to take a day. I wouldn't go through her. I wouldn't send it to both of them. I would just tell him. And then the staff would come to me and they would say, well, what do you think? Or what do you think? And it wasn't as a disrespect to her. It was just that I was normal. I was the norm. People would ask my advice all the time because I was there. I always supported people. People always came to me. And she and then I have the doctor in front of my name. And I always we would always hit heads about curriculum things. And I fully believe that there were times that she felt like she had to put me in my place. And I'm going to be very honest. With this assistant principal, I received some of the worst evaluations I have ever received in my career. Her and the one I just said I had an argument with, because she marked down my evaluation. No, excuse me. She marked down a co-teaching evaluation and then called me in the office and asked me how could I let that mess be taught in my classroom. Well, A, you weren't evaluating me, you were evaluating another teacher. But who am I to tell another teacher she can't teach her lesson? You weren't evaluating me, you were evaluating another teacher's lesson. Then I had this other assistant principal who just didn't feel like, she actually told me that she felt like I should leave the school. This was at the beginning of the year. She said, I think you can thrive in another school. This is what she said to me. I think you can thrive in another school. I think you, Title One, I think if you went to another school, I think you will thrive. I think you would be wonderful at another school. And I'll be honest with you guys, when I went into this school, I wanted to be just like the other teachers. I wanted to retire from the school. I'd already been there 19 years. I only needed 11 more years to retire. You hear me say only 11? That's all I needed, 11 more years to retire. She made my last year there so difficult. She gave me the worst evaluation I had ever had. We had an argument in the school improvement team meeting in which I was the chair. This is how much she disliked me, because she didn't dislike me as a person. She disliked me having any leadership or any say in anything. And I had a teacher come to me and she asked me about a child that was in her room that was super smart. And she said, I said, just send her to my room and let's see how she does during my reading time. And then she sent her to my room. The little girl was in my reading group and she did exceptionally well. I was a higher grade. And I said, well, you know what? Um, you can send her to my room if you like for reading, because it won't hurt her to have reading twice. Even if you teach reading later, it won't hurt her to have double doses of reading. It won't hurt. But you need to go and talk to the assistant principal and see if it's okay. And her response to that teacher was, Dr. Buchanan doesn't have the authority to tell you anything. So that let me know that the problem was me, not that the support of the child was important, but the problem was that Dr. Buchanan sent her. So I am an advocate, but I can also know how to advocate for myself. So when I got that bad evaluation, and after the other stuff that had happened, I could already tell that this was going to be an issue. So I called in my rep from North Carolina Association of Educators. And lo and behold, she brought in a totally different evaluation than the one she had submitted earlier. And it was worse than the one she submitted earlier. So I cut that 15 minutes up, we're done. Because she wanted to start an argument. And the rep said she was trying to gaslight you. I said, absolutely. I don't have time for that in my life. So I went to HR about her. You have to advocate for yourself when you realize that you're in a no win situation with someone who wants to put you in your place or run you off because that's what she wanted to do. And at that time, that was when we were all going out for COVID. That was the year we went out for COVID. So at that point, I was like, I'm out. I'm out. I'd already had two assistant principals that had a problem. I didn't even equate my degree with the last assistant principal. I just thought she and I don't know what was wrong with her. I didn't know. I didn't equate it with the degree. But with this one, it was definitely the degree. And because I knew just as much as she did, just as much, if not more. And so I left. I went to a new school, new principal, new assistant principal. They were yin and yang. You hear me? Yin and yang. They perfect. You hear me? Perfect. So as I got into my first year was pretty good. But then as I began to show my knowledge, and what I knew that we could do to make these kids stronger, using research-based strategies, is when the principal and I bumped heads for the first time. Because as you know, you use strategies such as differentiating the test. The kids who are not having successes and they're failing the test, you modify the test. You give the higher kids like open-ended questions on a test, and then you might give the lower kids the multiple choice test to make them have successes. And his question to me was, so who are you going to give this multiple choice test to? Well, we thought we would just give it to the lower kids. And who are the lower kids? It's the black kids. I'm looking at him like, no, it's the lower kids. Because all the lower kids weren't just black kids. It was some white kids, some Hispanic kids. We weren't even looking at race. It was just looking at the kids who were not succeeding and who needed successes. We weren't looking at the kids, but in his mind, it was just going to be the black kids. So that's where we got the pushback. But what he didn't realize is you give the kids the multiple choice test, but then you review the higher level test and that they see that they can make the connections of the two tests. But at that point, he was mad at me. It was no coming back from that. And I realized it. But it is what it is. If the kids aren't performing, you have to find a way to make connections so they do perform. So, you know, oopsie, curriculum instruction and professional development. Curriculum instruction, research based says. So he brought me some research that said this is not what you do. And I brought him some research that said, yes, this is what you do. You scaffold the learning. If they're successful here, you make them successful here and you build them to here. But like I said, I learned something from every principal I had. Now, because we had this argument or disagreement, he was still a great principal in his way. He just he probably had his experiences with teachers, and he colored me with that same brush, even though I wanted to yell at him, I'm black. I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? But I didn't. I didn't. I just wanted him to understand that you have to do what's in the best interest of the students, black, gray, white, purple, orange, or indifferent. But I learned something different from each and every one of my principals. They had their very strong points, but then they had their weaknesses. And sometimes their weaknesses overshadowed their strengths, depending on how they behaved with their staff. I didn't talk about their weaknesses. I only talked about how what they were doing affected me. But every principal had a weakness. Every one of them did. And it overshadowed their strengths. um, and caused problems with the staff, with each one of them. However, I, as someone who could see both sides because of my training, because of my education, I didn't have any skin in the game. So I supported my principals. Now the assistant principals, but I supported my principal's agenda, all of them. So this is where you have to be able to have discernment, because at the end of the day, being able to decide for yourself what is best for you is what you have to be able to do. You have to be able to have discernment, which is why I said having a buddy that has experienced all and that you feel like you can trust. Now, there's some people, you know, they tell you you can't make friends at work. Well, yeah, you can. You just have to feel your people out first. People you can't trust, they show themselves very quickly. They show themselves very quickly. So yeah, there's people you can't trust in your workplace, but you'll figure that out. You'll figure that out. But what you have to do is you have to form the relationships. You have to be open to asking questions. You have to realize you have to work with people. You have to realize you have to focus on your job first, and then the leadership activities or whatever activities that your principal asks you to do. But you also have to do what's in the best interest of the students, because that's what you're there for. That is exactly what you're there for. So, again, knowing what you're there for, knowing that your administration sometimes will support you in all you do, and sometimes they'll come for you because they'll come for you now. They'll come for you. But then also knowing that don't question your principles in open meetings. Go to them and say, okay, I don't understand why this is happening. Can you explain to me why this is happening? Because I did that. But you got to understand, you can't ask a teacher, ask a principal in a meeting why. Now somebody will, but that's not what you do. That's not how you do that. If you need to go and speak to a principal about why something is happening and you don't understand, you need to ask for a meeting, and then you ask why, and then you figure out how to make it work for you, because that's the only way that you can do it. Advocacy, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about lots of things. We're going to talk about new teachers walking in the door and whew, some of the hurdles I've seen new teachers face. Uh, I think that's probably going to be one of my next shows that I'm going to do, probably right after this one, some of the hurdles that I've saw new teachers face, because we're headed into a new school year. And I want to really, really talk about that. And, you know, I want everybody to be able to understand. I want everybody to be able to reach out if they need to, because I want to be a person that can support if that happens to anyone. I want to be a person that can offer advice. I also want to be a person that can share my experiences, and I'm going to do the best I can to do that. So, I hope this wasn't all over the place, because this is the first one and I have so much information to share. So, I want to welcome you to Shadows of Perspective with Dr. Buchanan. And I really, really, really appreciate you watching. my podcast, and I will see you soon. I will have episodes weekly. Um, and I do appreciate you being here. And please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you soon.